Hey everyone, welcome back to Coinology. Today we're going to be going through how to build a GPU mining rig. This is going to be separated into two videos as I don't have all the parts yet, but let's jump into it. So to start today, we have a GPU mining frame. We have a couple of GPUs that just came in. We've got a motherboard, some PCI risers, and a PCI adapter. Let's get into these different items. So first off, you're gonna need a GPU frame or case, something to basically set up this entire rig, keep it neat, keep it organized. The first item that we're gonna talk about are just regular old mining frames. Look something like this. You can get them for 20 bucks on eBay and Amazon right now. They do go for a lot more in the bull run. They usually go for about $50 to $100 in the bull run. But right now, like I said, 14, 20 bucks gets you one of these. So I decided to use one of these simple mining frames because they're easy to put together, easy to get running. There is some downfalls to this actual frame, being that the cooling properties are not as good as, say, a server case. Which we will go into as well. Looking at the next style, you can also do GPU hangers and just hang everything off of a rack and just kind of rack mount everything. That's another option. It's very similar to obviously the simple mining frame, but you're utilizing something that you might already have. So it might be a little bit cheaper. You don't even need to buy these little clips. You can use zip ties or whatever. So that's another route to go. And then finally, and the most expensive, would be a server case. Server cases are awesome because they keep your cards really cool. You can actually take off the stock fans and shrouds on GPUs. Some mining cards don't even come with fans, so this is a great option. And honestly, they keep your GPU so much cooler in the summer. The only problem is they're very expensive. The cheapest mining racks that I can, or server cases that I can find that have motherboards already pre-installed, start at $200, and I think that that's even a pretty good price. Once you get into Octaminers and things like that, they are so expensive. So if you have the money, this is an option, an awesome option. But for me, it's just a little bit out of what I can do with my funds for GPU mining. The next thing that you're going to need are going to be some GPU risers. I definitely recommend not buying these secondhand. A lot of times people get rid of GPU risers that are not working. They're just not super trustworthy. This GPU riser here is really nice because it already comes supplied with a 6-pin on both sides or a Molex for your lower power cards. So you can just plug your cable in and go. There are others that you have to use some sort of extender or something like that. And then as far as capacitors, this one only has 4. Some have 6, some have 8, and for longevity, heat, and just smoother running, those are going to be better. But these are nice. They're simple. They're brand new. Come with a brand new cable, and then they should also come with a PCI adapter that will allow you to plug into your motherboard. Next thing you're going to need is just a simple motherboard. Most motherboards, even old ones, will do fine. I mean, you don't need to go out and buy a mining motherboard. And the reason why is, for instance, this motherboard, I think I paid $18 for this motherboard and like another $12 shipping. It only has 3 PCI slots, but what you can purchase, these cost about $10 to $30, somewhere in there. This is a PCI splitter. So what I can actually do is slide this into here. And now I have 4 PCI adapters plus 2. So that gives me a total of 6 PCIs that I can actually use for GPUs. Now, this motherboard and processor setup may only allow a certain amount of PCI lanes. So we'll find that out later. But from what I found, most motherboards will handle between 5 and 6 GPUs comfortably. 5 usually is the bare minimum. I would recommend, if you are buying an old motherboard, to go ahead and clean this thing out, dust it off, check your RAM, pull off your cooler for your CPU, throw down some new thermal paste. That way you don't have to ever touch this thing and it's just ready to go. Additionally, I have some GPUs. These are actually going to be a P106 100s. They are a 6 gigabyte card. They're essentially the same as a NVIDIA GTX 1060 6 gigabyte, but these are much cheaper because they have no display output, which we're not going to be needing. So we just need these cards to mine. You can pick these up anywhere between $40 and $80. They're pretty inexpensive right now. During the bull run, though, these things sell for $200 to $400. So get your P106s now while you still can. I only have 3 right now. I have a couple more coming in the mail that we'll use to actually complete this rig. Next, you're going to need some sort of storage for your operating system. As far as operating systems, 100%, I'm going to say if you're a first-time user, just use Windows. You can run something like NiceHash or Unmineable. But as you get more experience, you're going to want something that's more Linux-based. I really like HiveOS, as I know most people do. So you can preload Windows on any of these, or you can go ahead and learn how to install HiveOS. Install HiveOS on any of these types. I love flash drives. They're just simple, they're easy to use, they're super lightweight, small. I don't have a bunch of cords. I can just plug them into a USB and go. The mSATAs are also another great option. Just screw it into the motherboard and you're good to go. SSD hard drives are also wonderful, of course. You can get them preloaded with Windows on them on eBay and Amazon, places like that. So those are super simple to use. They do require, obviously, a data cable and then a SATA cable in. So it is more connections, more wires than, say, like a flash drive or mSATA. Let's start off by building this GPU frame. That way we have something to start building off of and working with. Let's jump right into that. Most GPU frames have like a pretty simplistic instruction. Basically, you're just gonna bolt up a front piece, a back piece, side pieces, and then a middle piece, and then lay down a piece of felt. It's gonna come with all the hardware, so all you need is a screwdriver. Yeah, let's go ahead and put this thing together. So the mining frame is now built. If you have a drill, use a drill. It'll take you 2 seconds. If you're gonna use a screwdriver, it's definitely gonna take you a minute. Something I wanted to show you is that these frames come with, small little standoffs. I don't know if you can see that, if it'll focus. Small little standoffs for your motherboard, just like on a regular ATX desktop case. But I have found that these are not universal to almost any motherboard. I've never had a motherboard properly fit into one of these frames. So what I like to do is to use some sort of foam mounting tape to the bottom of the motherboard. That way you don't have motherboard contact on metal causing it to short out. You do not want your motherboard while it's turned on to be touching anything that's metal. So I use these on the bottom, and then that way it's mounted to the actual frame. I don't have to worry about it going anywhere. But the biggest thing is that I don't have to worry about it shorting out. So these are great to use. Online, I have seen also some different 3D printed standoffs that are universal. But this is the best thing I found so far. I've seen other people use boxes or like the foam from boxes to put motherboards on. That'll work too. Just something to get it off the metal. And at this point, we can just go ahead and slide this in. Start figuring out where we want it. Okay, so now that I've got my motherboard where I want it, I'm going to tell you why I put it here. So essentially now my cables for my PCI risers can now come up out of here into my graphics cards. Back here, this is where I'm obviously going to plug my power supply in. So my power supply can sit right here, plug into my motherboard. I have my cables free and accessible for my GPUs. So that's some way of putting your motherboard. Also, for somebody like me that's going to have Ethernet as well as a USB drive running Hive OS, that'll just come in right through the front. Let's go ahead and continue building this. I'm going to go ahead and connect all the PCI cables with the PCI risers. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Not very fast, but we're getting somewhere. I now have, as you can see down here, it won't focus. I have my PCI expander with all my USB cables. I've plugged in my PCI risers, and I've got them all kind of positioned how I'm going to want them. I'm going to go ahead and hook up the GPUs next and bolt them into the top of the frame. Obviously, I don't have a power supply, and I don't have Hive installed to a hard drive yet, so that'll be on a later video. But let's go ahead and get this together and kind of figure out the orientation of the rig. All right, so we've got our motherboard in, we got our PCI expander, we've got our PCI risers in, RAM is in, the processor was already in the motherboard when we got it. We built the frame, and now we added a couple of GPUs. As far as the orientation of these GPUs, you can see all these little bolt holes. You want to get them spaced out as far as possible to get the most airflow. Obviously, we're waiting for one more GPU still. So I put these two on the very far outside and then start working my way in, figuring out where I'm going to orient them. As for your first time booting up, you're going to need a GPU with some sort of video output. Like I was saying, the P106s do not have a video output, but a 1060 will. So I've got ahead and plugged in the P106s, but when I actually start this machine up, I'm going to be running the video off of the 1060. That way I can get video, log into Hive, or whatever operating system that you need to use, get it, make sure it's working, mining, and then I can put in a regular P106 and just turn this machine on. As far as mining rigs go, this is the most simple, dumbed-down version that you can possibly build. There are some better routes. Like, for instance, I love a riserless motherboard because then I don't have to deal with all these extra connections and figure out an orientation of the motherboard. I just have a motherboard with my GPUs on it, and that's the end of it. If you have any questions about what we did here today, go ahead and leave me a comment. I really appreciate you watching. Like, comment, and please subscribe. I need some subscribers. So please, if you have the time, do that. And I will see you on the next one once I receive a power supply, hard drive, and some more GPUs. Have a good night.